My name's Mark. I'm 44 years old, a mechanic by trade, and the closest thing I've ever had to religion is loyalty. I live in Tucson, Arizona, where the sun burns everything soft out of you by 30, and if your hands aren't calloused, you're not working hard enough. 6 years ago, I met Hannah. She came into my life like a summer storm, bright, loud, and gone before I could ask what she was running from. She was confident, funny, independent. All the words people use when they're trying not to say wounded. She had 3 kids from a previous marriage. Logan, 15 and angry at nothing in particular. Amber, 13 and sharp enough to slice the air just by walking through a room. And Sam, 10, still young enough to believe in Saturday morning cartoons and bedtime stories. Their biological dad? Gone. Ghosted. No child support. No calls. No birthdays. Not even a photo on the wall. Just a name Hannah only muttered when she was tired or drunk or both. I didn't come in swinging. I wasn't there to replace anybody. I didn't ask for titles or try to rewrite their memories. I just showed up. Again and again. That was my philosophy. Be present, be patient, be solid. I thought showing up would mean something. I thought sacrifice would be noticed. 8 months into dating, I bought a 4-bedroom house on the edge of town. Big enough for everyone to have space. I paid for the move, covered the mortgage, handled the utilities, stocked the fridge, filled the closets. I even took out extra insurance on the kids' electronics when Logan dropped his tablet in the pool and cried like someone had died. I paid for groceries, field trips, school dances, late-night emergency room visits. I paid for orthodontics and new cleats and private tutors. I paid for karate lessons Sam quit after 2 weeks and a dance workshop Amber said she hated but wouldn't miss for anything. I bought birthday cakes and Halloween costumes and summer camp deposits. I even started covering their phone plans and gas money before they were old enough to drive. I wasn't trying to buy love. I just believed that if you give enough, people eventually see the shape of the giver. For a while, it worked. Kind of. The kids called me Uncle Mark. I didn't mind. It had a distance to it, sure, but it also had warmth. Logan once asked me to help him with his science fair project. Sam wanted me to read him The Hobbit at bedtime. Amber left me a thank you note after I drove her to a sleepover on the other side of town. I told myself I was building something. Slowly, carefully. But respect isn't built. It's borrowed. And one day they decided to stop lending. Started small. Logan would come home and vanish into his room. No hello, no goodbye. Amber began rolling her eyes before I even finished my sentences. Sam started parroting their contempt. Quieter, but still there. One night he told me, "You're not even real." I laughed it off. He didn't. I kept giving. I kept showing up. I paid for Logan's guitar lessons and Amber's photography camp. I replaced Sam's bike when it got stolen. I upgraded the Wi-Fi because they said it was slow. I bought new phones when theirs cracked. And when the credit card bill made me flinch, I swallowed it. They stopped thanking me. That's how it happens. First, the gratitude disappears. Then the acknowledgement. Then your presence becomes expected, like running water. Invisible unless it stops. One afternoon I came home early from the shop. The sun was still high. The house smelled like reheated pizza and air conditioning. I was heading down the hall when I heard voices. Amber and Logan, talking in her room. "He's just the backup plan," Amber said. Her voice was casual, almost bored. Logan laughed. "Yeah, like a free trial we forgot to cancel." The door was cracked. I stood there, keys still in my hand, arms full of groceries. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just listened to my own irrelevance being passed between them like gossip. That night I drove. No direction, no music, just the hum of the engine and the ache in my chest. I took Speedway east until the houses thinned out, then turned south toward nothing. Past the edge of town, where the desert swallows the light and all that's left is silence. When I came back, the groceries were still on the counter. Hannah asked if I'd forgotten something. I said no. I didn't tell her what I'd heard. I didn't want excuses. I wanted silence, the kind you earn after too many years of pretending. I started paying closer attention. Not to what they said, but to what they didn't. Logan wouldn't even look at me unless he wanted money. Amber pretended I didn't exist unless she needed a ride. Sam started calling me the dude, like I was a neighbor they barely tolerated. And Hannah? She told me they were teenagers, that it was normal, that I was reading too much into it. But the truth was simpler. I wasn't a stepfather. I was a subscription service. I fixed things, I paid bills, I made sure the lights stayed on and the cars ran and the fridge was full. But I wasn't a person to them. I was a utility, placeholder. And one day I knew they'd cancel me, just like they said. So I asked myself, what happens when the trial ends? The day I decided to call a family meeting, the house smelled like burnt toast and cheap detergent. It was a Sunday morning, the one day I wasn't under a car or filling out invoices, and I told myself that was reason enough to try again. One more conversation. One more attempt to pin this family back together before the cracks split the whole thing open. I sat at the dining table, hands clasped, knuckles still blackened from yesterday's engine rebuild. Hannah sat across from me with her coffee, scrolling her phone. The kids slouched into their chairs one by one, faces glowing with the cold blue of their screens. None of them looked at me. "Can we talk?" I said. 3 pairs of eyes flicked up, annoyed, as if I'd interrupted a broadcast. "It's about respect," I began. My voice was steady, though the truth behind it felt jagged. "And boundaries, and how we're treating each other in this house." Logan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Amber sighed so loudly it seemed rehearsed. And Sam, who used to lean his head on my arm whenever I sat beside him, now stared at me like a stranger. I swallowed. "I just want us all to be." Logan cut me off. "You don't get to tell us how to act." Amber nodded sharply, as if she'd been waiting for him to say it. "You're not our dad." Then Sam, the one I'd thought might still have some softness left, delivered the final blow with childish cruelty sharpened into a blade. "You're just the guy who pays." I didn't react, at least not on the outside. My face stayed still. My mouth stayed closed. But inside, something quiet and important came loose. It didn't break, it detached. And Hannah, she didn't say a word. Not one breath in my defense. She stared at her hands, the chipped nail polish, the half-moon crescents where she'd been chewing her skin again. She let their words hang in the air like smoke, let them sink in without even attempting to wave them away. That silence was louder than anything they said. I nodded because that's all I could do. Not out of agreement, but understanding. They'd drawn the line. They'd placed me on the far side of it. And Hannah, by saying nothing, had handed them the chalk. "Okay," I said softly. "I hear you." And that's when something inside me, the part that still believed this could be salvaged, finally shut off. Not like a light, but like a valve. Slow, deliberate, final. After that conversation, I didn't yell, didn't slam doors, didn't try again. I just got quiet. I became background noise in my own house. And for the first time since moving in, I started looking at every bill with new eyes. The mortgage, the utilities, the streaming services, the phone plans, the dance lessons, the tutoring subscriptions, the gym membership, the rideshare accounts, the emergency fund I kept for hospital visits and school fees. Line after line of proof. Proof that I had been the backbone, the bank, the safety net. Not the man they respected, not the man they wanted, not the man they saw. Just the man who paid. I didn't get angry. Anger is loud, and I had no loud left in me. What I felt was colder, cleaner, a clarity sharp enough to draw blood. If they believed I had no authority, then they would have no more access. If I had no rights, I would carry no responsibilities. At dinner that night, Logan, cocky from earlier, shot his mouth off again. "You're just a walking bank account with a mustache," he said, grinning at Amber like they discovered a new inside joke. Nobody laughed, not even Amber, but she didn't tell him to stop. I put my fork down. That was the last meal I ever paid for in that house. The next morning I woke early, not for work, but for inventory. I pulled out folders, receipts, email confirmations. Years of purchases, payments, transfers, auto-renewals. Every dollar I'd poured into the lives of people who saw me as furniture, not family. I printed everything, a stack thick enough to choke a shredder. Then I began unsubscribing. Streaming accounts? Cancelled. Gym memberships? Terminated. Phone plans? Removed my card. Cloud storage? Gone. Rideshare apps? Card revoked. Emergency Venmo transfers? Disconnected. The joint checking account Hannah encouraged us to open? I withdrew every cent I'd personally contributed and closed it. Insurance? I separated my policy from theirs. Auto repair fund? I stopped contributing. I even removed myself from the school's emergency contact list. Non-guardian, the secretary wrote next to my name. For the first time in 6 years, I had no financial ties to them. First, nobody noticed. That's the thing about entitlement, it runs silent until the flow stops. But on Wednesday morning, the Disney Plus login kicked them out. On Thursday, Amber's dance school emailed about unpaid tuition. On Friday, Logan's phone refused to process a data refill. And on Saturday, Sam's Chromebook subscription expired. Panic spread through the house like a sudden draft. Mom, the card isn't working. The bill didn't go through. Why can't I log in? Hannah asked me quietly. Did something happen with the accounts? I told her the truth. The simple, emotionless truth. I stopped paying. The silence that followed was thick. Tangible. It felt like the walls themselves held their breath. Why? She whispered. Because your kids told me who I was, I said. And who I wasn't. They didn't like the consequences. Nobody ever does. People want to speak disrespect without living in its shadow. Over the next few days, I moved differently. Slower. Intentional. I fixed only what was mine. I cooked meals only for myself. I didn't offer rides or extra cash or help with last-minute assignments. I stopped filling the tank of the family car. Stopped wiping counters. Stopped making myself small. It rattled them. Even Hannah, who had built her comfort on the quiet certainty that I would absorb every shock. I watched them circle around each other in confusion, whispering in corners. They couldn't figure out what had changed. They wanted their old life back. The one where I paid and paid and paid, and asked for nothing but the smallest measure of respect. But once you hear the truth of your place in a household, you cannot unhear it. Placeholder. A wallet. A man they tolerated only because he kept the lights on. So I withdrew. Not dramatically. Not violently. Not with anger. Just completely. I became a ghost in the house that took everything from me except my name. And slowly, quietly, I began planning my exit. It happened the way most endings do, quietly. No storm. No broken plates. Just a sentence that felt like a death. We were at dinner. Microwave lasagna on chipped plates. Logan was poking at his food like it owed him money. Amber was scrolling her phone under the table. Sam was mumbling something about needing a new laptop charger. Nobody asked how my day was. Nobody noticed I hadn't spoken in 10 minutes. Then Logan looked up. Smirked. You're not family, he said. You're just the dude who lives here. He didn't even say it with malice. Just calm, matter-of-fact. Like the weather report. I looked around the table. No one flinched. Amber didn't even look up. Sam blinked once, then looked back at his food. And Hannah? She stayed silent. Again. Always. That was it. I stood up, wiped my hands and said, Okay, I got it. No yelling. No dramatics. Just understanding the final puzzle piece snapping into place. 2 days later, I was gone. Not in the emotional sense. Physically gone. I met with a lawyer. Quiet man. Firm handshake. Didn't blink when I told him I wanted to liquidate my stake in the house. I sold my portion to a rental investor. Cash deal. Fast turnaround. Legally clean. The house stayed in Hannah's name. The debt stayed with her too. I pulled out of the joint savings. Transferred what was mine. Canceled all autopays. Called every number I'd ever dialed on their behalf. Doctors, coaches, dentists, school counselors, and removed myself. Officially and permanently. I packed up my tools first. Always start with what you've built your life around. The rest came easy. Clothes, papers, a few framed photos from better years. Back when I still believed I mattered. I left the rest. The couch I paid for, the dining table I sanded and stained, the garage cabinet I built from scrap lumber. Let them keep the bones of the house. I didn't want them anymore. I moved into a studio above my shop. Small. One room. A kitchenette, a mattress on the floor, a fan that clatters when it spins too fast. But it's mine. Every inch of it. Every crack in the wall. Every screw I tighten myself. The first night there, I sat on the floor with a beer in my hand, and I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the silence like it was something holy. Then came the messages. Hannah texted, "You can't just walk away." But that's the lie, isn't it? That we owe forever to people who only ever offered us convenience? I didn't walk away. I stepped back into myself. And that's when the world they'd built on my back started to crack. Amber's dance school emailed her suspension notice. Overdue payments. No grace period. Logan's gym membership bounced mid-month. The manager called Hannah, asking why the card declined. No one answered. Sam's Chromebook died for good. Wouldn't charge. No one knew how to fix it. Suddenly, their world, the one they thought ran on air, started to shut down line by line, program by program, payment by payment. I wasn't the father, but I was the foundation. And without me, the house still stood, but everything inside it started to rot. Logan called once. Blocked number. I almost didn't pick up. "You think this proves something?" He spat. "That you're, what, a hero?" "No," I said. "Just finished." He cursed, called me a coward. Said I abandoned them. I didn't answer that, because you can't abandon people who never let you arrive. The second week, Amber showed up at my shop. She didn't come inside. Just stood in the parking lot, arms folded, like she thought posture could erase 6 years of disdain. "You left," she said. "I did. You ruined everything." "No," I said. "I stopped fixing what wasn't mine." She stared at me, waiting for the guilt to kick in, waiting for the man who paid for her birthday candles and New Point shoes to beg for another chance. I turned and went back inside. They thought I was bluffing. They thought, like always, I'd come crawling back once the silence got loud enough, that I'd miss the table I built more than the peace I'd finally found. But I didn't miss the noise. I didn't miss the weight of pretending. And I sure as hell didn't miss being their safety net while they lit the wires on fire. A month passed. Then came the real panic. The biological father, their myth, their excuse, their invisible hero, never showed. Not once. Not even when Hannah finally called him, voice trembling with desperation. She left me a voicemail. "He won't answer. He says he can't afford to help. He says they're not his problem." I didn't return the call. You see, that's the part they never saw. The man they weaponized against me, he was just a shadow. But I was the one paying the bills, cleaning the messes, standing in the storm. And they told me to my face I didn't matter. So now they get to live in that world. The one where I don't exist. The one they swore was true. A few weeks later, Hannah emailed me. Subject line, urgent. She wanted help with Sam's school fees. Just temporary, she said. Just until she figured things out. I didn't reply. Then Logan tried again. A voice message this time. His tone had changed. Less fire, more smoke. "I don't know what you want from me," he said. "If this is about respect or whatever, fine. You had it. Okay. Just help Mom. Help Sam. Don't do this." I deleted the message. Respect doesn't come retroactively. It's not a rebate you file for after the damage is done. Another month passed. I heard from a mutual friend that Hannah took on a second job. That Amber dropped out of dance entirely. That Logan was trying to get financial aid but had no credit history, no cosigner. That Sam had started asking about me. Quietly, in ways that stung. I didn't respond. You might think that makes me cruel. Maybe it does. But I gave everything, to people who treated me like an accessory to their story. Like a borrowed tool. like something to be used and then returned, scratched and worn and forgotten. Now I live differently. Mornings are slow. Coffee from a percolator I bought secondhand. Music on low volume. The sound of engines in the shop below. No slammed doors. No cold silences. No being ignored in the house I paid for. I ride my bike across the desert on Sundays. Just me, the road, the heat, and the wind that never asks for anything. I don't miss them. I miss who I thought they were. And that's not the same thing. Sometimes I think about Sam. Not the boy he is now, but the one who asked me to help build a go-kart and cried when I scraped my knuckles. I wonder what version of me he'll remember. But I don't wonder long, because I didn't walk away from them. They walked away from what I gave. And all I did, finally, was stop catching them. It's been 9 months since I left. People say time dulls pain. But that's not what happened. What time gave me wasn't comfort, it was distance. Space to see the truth without the noise. Space to let the bruises turn into scars. Scars don't hurt. They itch sometimes, but they don't bleed anymore. I live above my garage now. Studio apartment. No frills. One window, one sink, one bed. Keep it clean. Clean feels earned. I never knew how much a man could love silence until he's been denied it for 6 years straight. No more slammed doors. No more passive-aggressive sighs. No more walking into a room and feeling like a ghost in a house I paid for. Now, when I hear noise, it's the sound of tools clinking. The radio playing old blues. The buzz of an engine humming back to life under my hands. These are honest sounds. They don't lie. They don't demand more than I have. They don't ask me to be a father while spitting in my face. I see Hannah sometimes. Not in person. Online. Her social media's set to public. I don't look because I miss her. I look because I want confirmation that I did the right thing. She's tired now. You can see it in her eyes. That shine she used to carry. The one that drew me in like a moth to a flame. It's gone. Replaced by bags under her eyes and that subtle panic women wear when the weight gets too heavy and no one's coming to help. Logan's out of school. Dropped out or kicked out, I don't know which. Maybe both. He works part-time at a warehouse, according to a mutual friend. Lives with 2 roommates in a basement. He's got opinions now, big ones, about how unfair the world is. Amber hasn't danced in over 6 months. Her Instagram used to be full of recitals and glitter. Now it's blank. Nothing but selfies and quotes about letting people go. She's learning now that being the center of attention means nothing when there's no one left to clap. Sam. He's the only one I still wonder about. He's 13 now. That age where a boy starts deciding who he wants to be. I wonder if he remembers the man who stayed up fixing his Lego ships, who held his hand in the ER, who stood on the sidelines in the rain just to see him run half a mile in the wrong direction. I wonder if he knows I was real. I don't reach out. I can't. Because the man who gave everything, and was still told he was nothing, has finally learned the cost of begging for love. You pay with your self-worth. I met someone recently. Her name's Jenny. She's 42. No kids. Divorced. Owns a little pottery shop downtown. She's quiet in the way that makes you lean in. She listens when I speak, like my words aren't wasted breath. She doesn't ask for anything but presence. We met at a gas station of all places. She was trying to figure out how to change a tire. I offered to help. She said yes. Not with reluctance, not with suspicion, but with gratitude. That yes meant more than any thank you I ever got in Hannah's house. Now we have dinner twice a week. She brings wine. I cook. There's no drama, no manipulation, no emotional extortion disguised as family. When I told her about Hannah, about the kids, about the years I spent giving and giving until there was nothing left in the tank, she didn't say, "That's sad," or "You should have left sooner." She just said, "They didn't deserve you." I didn't cry when she said it, but I almost did, because that was the first time someone acknowledged the whole picture. Not just the ending, but the years of labor leading up to it. The invisible work. The quiet loyalty. The way I stood in the fire and smiled through the smoke. Now I wake up and no one glares at me over breakfast. No one asks for money. No one rolls their eyes when I speak. I drink my coffee hot. not reheated 3 times between errands. I listen to records. I sit on the roof some nights and watch the stars claw their way out of the black. And I think, this is peace. Not joy, not bliss. Peace, the absence of demand. The freedom from performance. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if they just said, thank you. If Hannah had just once told her kids, this man saved us. If Logan had looked me in the eye and said, I see what you do. If Amber had called me more than a backup plan. If Sam had called me real. But that's the fantasy we build to cope. That if we just held on longer, things would have turned. The truth? I held on too long. I endured too much. And the longer you stay where you're disrespected, the more you teach people that you deserve it. So now I ask nothing of anyone. Not because I'm bitter. Because I've learned. People don't value what costs them nothing. And I gave them everything. That silence they called me cruel for giving? That withdrawal they said was abandonment? That was the first boundary I ever enforced. They didn't like it because it wasn't convenient. But it was necessary. Because here's the truth I live by now. I was never the placeholder. I was the whole goddamn structure. And the day I left, they realized how cold it gets when the man who kept the heat running finally shuts it off. So now I ask you, whoever's reading this, whoever's wondering if walking away makes you weak, would you have stayed? Would you have kept paying for a seat at a table where no one saved you a chair? Or would you have done what I did, left the room, and taken the light with you,